Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining in. Hello. Thank you. This is Happy Easter. And if you just tune in, just indicate briefly below. Let me know where you are. Usually, if you're here in the United States, if you're still in Europe, wherever you are, and just briefly below, just indicate where you are, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you live. And here again, my name is Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking here in the great state of Texas. Thank you. All right. Thank you. It's been and how did you spend your Easter? I'm sure you went to church, except you were working. And if not, how was your Easter? Because mine was fantastic. And I don't know about yours. Um, uh,
These are the jungles of Kusu, bringing you good news from the sandy beaches of Legume.
This is traditional music, often sung in the West Cameroon, Republic of Ambazonian. And it's a wonderful music. It gives the significance of the culture of the people of Southern Cameroon. All right. Good evening. 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 Uh, Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Uh, I want to take a moment to thank all of you tuning in this evening. And here again, my name is Fontan Daniel. I am speaking here from the great state of Texas. Uh, I know many of you, I have been talking about issues that affecting the people of Southern Cameroon. And Southern Cameroon, many of you, if you have been following me closely, you must be aware of the situations Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon was formerly a British colony, and Southern Cameroon, some people they call West Cameroon, but citizens of Southern Cameroon has converted to a federal Republic of Ambazonian, which is the current name. What is Southern Cameroon? It is quite amazing that the people of Southern Cameroon, as a former British colony, uh, the United Nations office here in the United States declared the independence of Southern Cameroon in 1961. And but however, since the granting of independence of Southern Cameroon, they haven't been able to liberate themselves. They are going through one turbulence to the next turbulence, from one turbulence to the next turbulence. It's just like a flight in the mid-air that meet a disaster. And when the turbulence occur to you, for many of you who have been traveling by air, you understand what I mean by turbulence. And when there is turbulence, they have to be, if you don't have a good pilot, something might happen. And so Southern Cameroon has been going through this turbulence. since its independence was granted by the United Nations in 1961. And today that I'm speaking, but I want to first of all thank the United States government. I want to thank the U.S. Congress. I want to thank the U.S. Senate. I want to thank the White House. Today, are eager today to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And Jesus, when Jesus Christ resurrected, indicate that the power of the Almighty is above anyone else. So today, as I'm speaking here for the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but the people of Southern Cameroon hasn't resurrected. And so we are here speaking because we shouldn't have arrived in this unfortunate stage for the Southern Cameroon. So how did the Southern Cameroon arrive in these situations? The problem is Southern Cameroon, after the United Nations mandated that all the trusted territory, United Nations are immediate independence. After the defeat of the Germans and other nations that were fought alongside the Germans against the Allied forces. And so United States were part of the Allied forces. And when United Nations was formed in 1945, said those territories that were under the control of German should be prepared for immediate independence. And so Britain prepared Southern Cameroon for immediate independence. And so Southern Cameroon witnessed a democratic form of government. And that democratic form of government, there was an elected cabinet of the first Southern Cameroon government. And that cabinet was presented in Enugu. Enugu is a state in Nigeria. So when we talk of Enugu, one wondering, where is Enugu? Enugu is in Nigeria. So the British administrator that was designated by the Queen of England was residing in Enugu. So the Queen designated an individual to of the Queen of England. It was residing in Nigeria, where he manages all the territorial areas that were under British administrations. And so because the United Nations body advised that those territories be prepared for immediate independence, and Southern Cameroon was one of those territories that was also prepared for immediate independence. And so what happens? And so when Southern Cameroon witnessed an elected cabinet, and that cabinet was presented to the representative, and they recognize and respect the wish of the Southern Cameroon. So Southern Cameroon experienced the democratic form of government. And subsequently, another cabinet was elected. That was Jongo Foncha. So Jongo Foncha was the next cabinet that was elected in Southern Cameroon. So Southern Cameroon has witnessed a democratic form of government even in the entire West African region. They exercise democracy where the winners conduct meaningful elections, which were never experienced by most of the French colonial territory. So how did Southern Cameroon get into this crisis? And so the East Cameroon, which is the French colonial territory, were being managed by the French administrator or French as one of the Allied forces. So France did not actually conduct a meaningful reform in the French colonial territory. The reason why France, because France was biased. France felt that a democratic form of Africa could be a threat to the French hegemony. And so therefore, by organizing a meaningful elections, France witnessed a threat to their hegemony in Africa. And so because of that, Southern Cameroon was really a form of democratic form of government. And so when the United Nations mandated that those territories be prepared for immediate independence, what they means there should be a form of democratic form of government to be elected. But France did not. France did not conduct that meaningful as by the United Nations decisions. Instead, there was a political party that had the tendency to win an elections if there was one conducted by the French administration. So instead, UPC that was the potential to become a leading political figure in the French-speaking Republic of Cameroon. And so UPC was banned. As UPC was banned, and the leaders of the UPC were being chased out in the French Cameroon. And so many of the leaders of the UPC seek a refuge in Southern Cameroon territory. Remember that Southern Cameroon already developed a form of meaningful democracy where they have an elected officials, there was a transparent, the government was functions, and the Queen of England recognized Southern Cameroon. Why? Because of its economic potential. Secondly, it was a surplus budget. Remember that there was a certain part of Cameroon that was in north, another part of Cameroon that was managed by the British. They were running at a deficit. So the British Crown usually used subventions. Subvention means providing assistance. That's what I mean by subvention. Means the British Crown provide assistance to the northern part that joined Nigeria. But the Southern Cameroon were more viable. They have a very transparent economic policy. And that so they were more surplus, they make surplus revenue than the Queen of England anticipated. And so in the French speaking, they didn't have any sound economic system. Why? Because they were unstable. Why were they unstable? Because the party that had the potential to become a leading figure in the French and French government. And so when the UPC was banned, there was no way. There was corruption. Remember that I know I've been speaking about this issue several times. And so there was a form of guillotine that was carried out. What is a guillotine? Guillotine is something that was used by the French Revolution, where certain individuals were being, their head were placed somewhere, and that it was cut, and that the head was presented to the crown of France or the king of France or whatever who was the leader of the France as a means to show that they have actually killed that individual that was a threat to the French history. And so that form of guillotine was being applied in the UPC and people of UPC. When we talk of UPC, would be like the Bassars, the Bamilekes. So many of those leaders were being guillotined that were caught. Whereas in Southern Cameroon, it was a peaceful democracy. There was never any form of anonymity within the French British colony. And so today, Southern Cameroon has at least 60 people of the Southern Cameroon are now in Nigeria. They are basically living on a single food in 24 hours. Why did they arrive in these positions? Well, simply because the Southern Cameroon invite the Republic of Cameroon in what known as a cohabiting relationship. It's just like you have a girlfriend, you have a wife, or not a wife means you're actually married and they know that you are married. But in this case, they are not. It's just that they invite that they can cohabit in such a way that they can pool resources for the mutual benefit of both nations. There are two separate entities, two separate nations. Remember, the Republic of Cameroon, whom I'm speaking about, got their independence in 1960. And so the Southern Cameroon got their own independence in 1961. The contrast differences between these two nations is that while the Southern Cameroon were more democratic in form of government, the Republic of Cameroon didn't. And so today that I'm speaking, United Nations office, imagine United Nations Secretary General saying that they are watching when there are 60,000 people in Nigeria living on basically a single food in 24 hours. The entire villages, entire community are being burned down by the Republic of Cameroon. United Nations is still watching. People are being burned down. And you can imagine mother and children. I have to speak about these issues when a mother and their children are being by the Republic of Cameroon military wing. And yet we have a United Nations office here in the United States saying they are still watching to see how the crisis. So this is the problem with the United Nations office. They are absolutely a stewardship. They're absolutely naive. I don't understand why United States should funding the United Nations office because they are absolutely ignorant of the reality. They are absolute ignorance of factual information. Why? Because the taxpayers' money, because my tax money are also being deducted, and they are part used to finance United Nations office. Why I sit here and I watch my people being burned down. I watch my family because Southern Cameroon, it doesn't matter that I'm related to them by birth or by not, but so long as we are people of the same locality, people of the same identity, I share their feelings, understand what they're going through. And but the United Nations office physically here in the United States said they are still watching. United Nations office is made up of people of mental retarded. It's absolutely mentally retarded. I often refer to Europe because the case that is more familiar because many people may have forgotten history because not many people like historical facts. But they're more concerned, people are related to things that happen within a current. For example, when the people of Great Britain, when the people of Great Britain voted to join the European Union of recently, it was generally accepted within the European Union. Later on, the British realized that the relationship is not matured and they don't feel that they're comfortable with the relationship with the European Union. They voted and choose to leave the European Union. It didn't occur to the world. United Nations were monitoring closely every aspect of the procedure. And it didn't occur to them. There was not that was lost. There was not a single soul that was killed. But the British were able to conduct their meaningful elections and they choose to leave the European Union. Southern Cameroon is a member of the United Nations Trusted Territory. And the people that are the people that are feeling the pain are asking United Nations that the relationship that exists between the Southern Cameroon territory and the Republic of Cameroon is no longer valid. Because why? The actually individual that negotiate the relationship with the Republic of before he died, he had released his memorandum to the United Nations that the relationship that coexists between me, the initiator, with the Republic of Cameroon has reached a turning point that I don't think need to move. And he speak to the United Nations, and the United Nations has all these documents. And with the recent crisis in southern Cameroon, crisis began when the people, it's not a crisis that began just yesterday, it's a crisis, ongoing crisis. The people of southern Cameroon believe in the federal system of government. They believe in a transparent form of government. They believe in an elected officials. This is the difference between the people of southern Cameroon and the francophone speaking. Remember, I indicate that many people of the francophones were being guillotined. Guillotine is a form of murdering that was conducted in France during the era of the French Revolutions. So many individuals were being killed in the form of guillotine, where their neck was simply cut. And so the Anglophone speaking, they believe in a transparent form of government. They believe in a government that the citizens can go to the poll and elect their representative. And they have the power to be able to recall that representative should the person in question is not ruled within the valid as indicated or defined within the context of the regulation governing the Southern Cameroon territory. And so that was the meaningful, we expect the Republic of Cameroon to come into this meaningful relationship. But unfortunately, the French speaking or the Republic of Cameroon has not meet up with those. They prefer to govern by decree. That is a form of government or what is known as the civil law system. The Republic of Cameroon believes in a civil law system. In that form of government, they appoint all officials of the entire Southern Cameroon territory. That is totally against the culture of the Southern Cameroon. And so the Republic of Cameroon believe that they ought to appoint all members of government. For example, the governor is appointed by Republic. So this is the difference between elected officials and appointed officials. An appointed officials is answering to the person that actually appoint. So therefore, he doesn't care about the citizen whom he is trying to govern. That's the difference between an elected officials and appointed officials. So the Southern Cameroon believe that they can elect their Cameroon, just like the governor is. So the governor is appointed. Sorry for that interruption. I think it was a weak signal. So as I was speaking, so this is the difference between the Republic of Cameroon and the Anglophone speaking territory. And so they have asked the Republic of Cameroon that we want to elect our representative. Instead, the Republic of Cameroon appoint a governor over the territory of the Anglophone speaking. And so when the citizens demonstrate, because the government does represent the citizens, it becomes patience. That is why we have at least 60,000 citizens of Southern Cameroon are in Nigeria. And yet, they are conducting an election in Southern Cameroon when they have not physically addressed the grievances the Southern Cameroon are currently going on. And that is why all of us that we happen to be in United States, Great Britain, Europe, have demonstrated that we need an interventions. But United Nations office that is here in the United States has deliberately refused to call for a general session to discuss about the Southern Cameroon crisis. Okay, imagine Iran, just simple demonstration of the citizens in Iran. It called for immediate attention for the United Nations. It didn't, no single soul was killed. There was no massacre occurred in Iran. This is the bias that exists between United Nations towards African descent and those in different society. I cannot imagine that at least 60,000 citizens are in the country. 60,000 citizens of Southern Cameroon, and many of them are living in the forest as I'm speaking. Many of them don't even have a basic food. Many of them are basically living in a mosquitoes infested forest. And they simply use probably whatever you can describe. And probably they can be bitten by animals, they can be bitten by snakes, and you name the rest. Imagine a woman that was pregnant with twins. And she was almost at the point of delivery. And she has to walk several distance out of her territory, her comfort zone. She has to walk over a distance of her comfort zone. And she delivered those two children that she was pregnant with. And she has to bleed to death. It doesn't occur to United Nations that it is an imperative that they call a general session to discuss the crisis in Southern Cameroon. Of course, as I give typical references, when Iranians sneeze, United Nations call immediate sessions. When North Korea sneezes, United Nations call immediate session. But people of the African descent, when they sneeze, they are watching. United Nations is watching. It is very painful that when you have a body, and that is why Africa continent, entire African continent, doesn't have a representative at the United Nations. Why? Because they are people of the lesser quality. And that is why if there are 60,000 citizens out of their territorial or their comfort zone and in another country living on a basically one single meal in 24 hours. As I said, a 60,000 people of citizens, a single meal in 24 hours living on an infested mosquito bite. And it didn't occur to the United Nations office here in the United States that they ought to call immediate session, but they are watching. Yes, United Nations is watching. And it hasn't occurred to them that it is a crisis that ought to be investigated. Secondly, it's not ethnic cleansing. It is a country versus another country that should have drawn attention. Southern Cameroon speaking, Anglophone speaking territory. It's not an ethnic society that one will wondering that since it is an ending issue, the nations has to settle the problem before it could arrive at the point of the United Nations. Southern Cameroon is a United Nations trusted territory. And the law that governs the United Nations against its sovereign, against the trusted territory, is stated here. And Southern Cameroon and is bound by these regulations. Southern Cameroon is bound by these regulations of the United Nations. And so, why did the current Secretary General call for a sessions? Because one, he was never elected. It was simply an exclamation by a certain individuals whom felt that because he has worked in the United Nations ought to be accepted. Previously, an individual usually in a normal circumstances, an application will be advertised that any contender who choose to be a member of the choose to lead the Security Council will participate, and member nation will vote for his credentials that he should be able to lead the United Nations. But the current United Nations Secretary General does not meet that criteria. He was simply by an acclamation rather than by the vote by qualification, simply because they choose. There is a differences. When Boutros Ghali of Egypt, when Clinton realized that he was not meeting the standard of the United Nations, and the United States under Bill Clinton advocate for his immediate departure. But why should United Nations have someone that doesn't meet the qualification? Because if Southern Cameroon is a trusted territory of the United Nations, and he is saying that he is simply watching how the Christ is going to manifest, then I am kind of concerned, because if we have to have this form of a United Nations representative that does not meet the criteria, because they should have acted immediately when at least 60,000 is a price, 60,000 of a citizens are being brutalized, are being murdered, are being Southern Cameroon, anyone that is a born citizen of Southern Cameroon can stand and advocate and question the credibility of the Republic of Cameroon. The Republic of Cameroon is simply another nation. The fact that the Anglophone speaking choose to live with the Republic of Cameroon, any Southern Cameroon born has the credibility to question any existing relationship with the Republic of Cameroon at any time, at any moment. And so Southern Cameroon citizens are asking the validity of the relationship that existed with the Republic of Cameroon. And today, the citizens of Southern Cameroon are being adopted by the Republic of Cameroon that has lacked any legitimacy over the people of Southern Cameroon. And yet, the international community is still watching as the United Nations office here in the United States. It is very frustrating when you have a body that lacks knowledge and skill to able to perform his duty at will. Imagine you have a patient, you have a child, or you have a patient that is sick, and you take that particular patient, you rush to the hospital, and that child is residing somewhere, and people are just watching. Yes, they are watching. You will have immediate question whether does the hospital meet the qualification? Does they have the credential to be able to deal with crisis? But United Nations doesn't have the qualifications, because a certain individual was picked up from the public and placed at the helm of the United Nations. And why 60,000? It's not just the crisis of Southern Cameroon that is happening, But there are other crises elsewhere that are being ignored by the United Nations office. Why? This is when the United Nations office, when you compare the United Nations office in the 50s, in the 60s, they were more proactive, they were more visible, they were more engaged. And that is why when Southern Cameroon conduct their first initial elections, that they have their cabinet under Endele, United Nations dispatched their representative. And by then, Southern Cameroon were probably approximately maybe 4-5 million at the time. They were simply of less populations as compared to today, almost 8 or 9 million of the people of Southern Cameroon. Does they warrant an attention of the United Nations that when these people mobilize and state that the relationship with the Republic of Cameroon is a questioning? It's not only questioning, but the person that actually initiated that relationship actually came to United Nations office here before he died. And it didn't occur to United Nations that there must be an issue that we need to watch. That's an issue we need to take consideration, that we need to take a prompt action. Imagine right now that I'm speaking, the homes of the indigents, the home of the indigents are being burned down. The entire economic investment of the people of Southern Cameroon has been burned down. What is the role of the United Nations office in Cameroon? If they are not capable to report exactly what is happening, then United Nations shouldn't be in elsewhere. Because the citizens of Southern Cameroon, the entire village has been burned down. The people has been killed, and 60,000 people are languishing in Nigeria. And the United Nations has an office in Cameroon, and the people taxpayers' money are being used against those individuals that are residing in Cameroon that cannot give accurate information about what is happening in Cameroon. They could not furnish those pictures of homes being burned down. And yet, the United Nations office is watching. United Nations office here in the United States is watching. It is very, very painful that when humanitarian crisis has erupted and an office that's charged with the responsibility can accurately give true analysis. Either they give true analysis, but the person in charge of the office is thinking that they should be watching rather than acting. It is sad to have, it is absolutely disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. Imagine, I may not feel the pain, but I feel because we in the Southern Cameroon share the common identity. Imagine someone in Batibo find his corn burned, find his cocoa, his everything burned down, his home, his entire investment burned down by the Republic of Cameroon military. People in Banso, they have their corn being burned down, including their home, by the Republic of Cameroon. People in Kwakwa, people in Manu, people. I mean, it is very, very regretful that we have a body here they call the United Nations that has no duty or responsibility to act in a crisis, but they are watching. They are watching. We have reached an era where we need to reform the United Nations because That is why I always refer to Bill Clinton. Remember the crisis of the Kosovo. The people of Kosovo were going through this extramoral cruciating pain. But when Bill Clinton stood up, said, it's not on my watch that I will see the people of Kosovo being murdered by the army of occupation. And he stood up and said, no, it's enough. And his decisions were reinforced by actions. And that brutal dictatorship has been relinquished, and they are now being sentenced in jail. And today, there have not been any crisis after the Clintons' action, President Clinton's action against the Kosovo. So today, they are living in a very comfortable life, peace, and security. But we have the United Nations office here in the United States says they are watching. This is a typical example. If Littoral Province choose to break away from the Republic of Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon has every authority to invade the Littoral Province because it was part of that territory that was united with the Republic of Cameroon. But then the United Nations clause says nations feel marginalization. Even if they were part of a certain territory, they have the right to seek for freedom. And United Nations have authority to intervene over those indigents. And United Nations has the duty to do so. But Southern Cameroon is not like a littoral. Southern Cameroon is not like Western Province. Southern Cameroon is not like Extreme North or Adamawa. Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation on its own that share the same common identity, just like the Republic of Cameroon. It doesn't occur to the United Nations that it is their prerequisite to investigate, but they are still watching. Why are they still watching? Because when the United Nations Secretary General traveled to the Republic of Cameroon, he was given money, he was given gold. The current United Nations Secretary General is not even aware that in 2010, the United Nations presented a 2 flag to Paul Biya. That is why I said this United Nations is made up of nuisance, people that lack coherent mental capability to be able to reason. The same body presented 2 identical maps to President Paul Biya in 2010. What is the significance of 2 maps? It's saying that these are 2 nations that United Nations recognize and has never emerged together to form one. And that map was presented by United Nations. And it is everywhere you can see the images. And it didn't occur to United Nations like the current Central African Regional Representative, Francois Lefort, is another stupid individual that is working under United Nations. Because when you have a body that are being employed by people with lack of judgment and mental sound that are able to reason and able to come out and speak the truth, and that is where the crisis continue to erupt in the society, and meaningful people cannot exist. Because if United Nations office presented 2 identical maps in 2010 to Paul Biya, and Southern Cameroon citizens are advocating that we, the people of Southern Cameroon, that the relationship with the Republic of Cameroon doesn't go anywhere, and that we choose to remain as a sovereign nation. And the United Nations is still watching. It's still watching. It is absolutely a nightmare. It is absolutely a nightmare. It is absolutely a nightmare. I mean, Canada shares the same principles. Canada, the Canadian minority or the Canadian French speaking are the minority. They have choose to vote for their independence, and it was allowed, and they conduct it, and they never won. Why can't the Southern Cameroon conduct their own? The Southern Cameroon doesn't even need to conduct an election because it's a nation on its own. It is a cohabiting relationship with the Republic of Cameroon. They just need to tell the Republic of Cameroon that we are moving ahead. And the Republic has no legal authority to invade the Southern Cameroon. They have no legal authority. Even to dispatch troops in Southern Cameroon. They have no legal authority. Even Southern Cameroon has not, even the Paul Biya constitution that he claimed he has won, state that Paul Biya cannot arrest Southern Cameroon and jail them in the Republic of Cameroon. They ought to be jailed in Southern Cameroon territory. The Republic of Cameroon is not even aware of their own document they have in their disposal. And that is why Southern Cameroon believe in a fundamental rule of law. And because we are more familiar, we are more of Western society form of education, and we believe in freedom. We believe that every document should be acceptable and that people must be judged based on that document. Just like the United States. United States respect the Constitution that was written about 200 years ago. And today, no one violates the Constitution of the United States. Everyone is held below the Constitution of the United States. And if everyone are held below the Constitution of the United States, therefore no one is above the Constitution of the United States. And Southern Cameroon believe in these fundamental principles, the rule of law. And Southern Cameroon is not exception. But the Francophone speaking, they are above their own law that they created because a certain individual are above the law. And so since a certain individual are above the law, they can float with it at will. And that is why Paul Biya is still in power for 36 years. But the Western society recognized Paul Biya as a legitimate president. Someone that he can't even recall his own son's name. Paul Biya that cannot remember his wife's name. Paul Biya that he doesn't even know the airport he's going to travel. But he's being guided by a certain sheep. Sheep is an animal that just moves like. That is what the Western society have. The embassy in the Republic of Cameroon have been guided him. And that is deeply frustrating to have Western society with special mental capability is governed by someone that is not functioning. This is gone. And that is why Southern Cameroon will not allow such an individual to govern when he himself can recall what happened a few minutes ago and he's mentally incapacitated. Paul Biya. But the Western society recognized him as more than the people of Southern Cameroon. Mr. Sisseko is a professor in the university. But Paul Biya cannot recall the wife's name. Paul Biya cannot recall his first son's name. Paul Biya cannot recall his daughter's name because he's being guided by a certain group of people, including the Western Society Embassy. And that was what prompted me to be very, very concerned. I believe that the world needs to draw attention and be able to respect that we ought to have a meaningful society that deals with the value that we all appreciate. United Nations office is watching. United Nations office in United States. If humans have freedom, then humans should be led by those that have judgment, that have meaningful judgment to be able to function to the highest level. But Southern Cameroon, as a member of the United Nations clause, this is United Nations clause, is set in a setting up of an international trusteeship system. The charter established the Trusteeship Council as one of the main organs of the United Nations and assigned to it the task of supervising administration of the trust territories placed under the trusteeship system. In other words, Southern Cameroon territories and their progress towards progressive development towards a self-government of independence. That is the United Nations document. In Nigeria, but the United Nations is still watching. United Nations is still watching. The Trusteeship Council is made up of 5 permanent members of the Security Council, including China, France, Russia Federation, the United Kingdom, and United States. So in other words, Southern Cameroon territory has a permanent nation that is in the Security Council, which is Britain. The Republic of Cameroon has a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, which is France. And Southern Cameroon is a trusted territory that is being under United Kingdom. France is controlling its part. Britain is deliberately ignoring the Southern Cameroon. If British Prime Minister Theresa May or order the ambassador of the British to United Nations that table a bill that I want the people of Southern Cameroon that have demonstrated that the relationship with the Republic of Cameroon is no longer valid. United Nations would have called a media session. We are the citizens from that Southern Cameroon. We are asking United States to help. Meanwhile, Britain is aware of the political crisis of Southern Cameroon, but it remains silent. They can't order their ambassador here in the United States to call for immediate session of the United Nations against the crisis of Southern Cameroon, despite the fact that 60,000 Southern Cameroon are living without food or water. And the British Crown remains silent. United States Congress has called for 24 members of the U.S. Congress, has invited to the State Department. The State Department has called on Nikki Haley, who is the ambassador. This is the action United States government is taking against the Southern Cameroon crisis. And yet, the British, that fully aware of the political crisis of Southern Cameroon, as original colonial master that has prepared Southern Cameroon for immediate independence that occurred in 1961, remains silent, despite the fact that there is a worldwide demonstration by the people of Southern Cameroon, and yet the Crown of England remains silent. This is the document. It says China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, and United States. Those are the permanent members of the Security Council. And so the Southern Cameroon is a member of is a trusted territory. Therefore, it's in line with this United Nations document that I am reading that has been deliberately ignored. Has been deliberately ignored. It says again here, the aim of the trusteeship system have been fulfilled to the extent that all trusted territory have attained self-government or independence. So Southern Cameroon hasn't obtained its self-government. And the citizens of Southern Cameroon has questioned the credibility of the relationship that exists between the Republic of Cameroon and the people of Southern Cameroon. Not only the person that initiated the relationship, Jongu Foncha, that is the architect of the relationship between the Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon and the United Nations office. He himself has personally written United Nations. He himself personally came to United States, to United Nations head office, and said, and I quote, I thought the relationship between me, the initiator, with the Republic of Cameroon has not functioned. And I am standing here, I want to cancel that relationship. United Nations have this document at their disposal. And if United Nations has acted promptly and correctly, Southern Cameroon, 60,000 Southern Cameroon are not being a refugee in Nigeria. A mother with twins had to bleed to death, and her two children barely survived on her way escaping from the evil brutality of the military wing of the Republic of Cameroon. It doesn't occur to the United Nations that this has to draw attention for the international community to raise alarm. They are watching. The Republic of Cameroon are watching. United Nations office here in New York, they are watching. This is the document. 64 nations in 1961 voted as recognizing the Southern Cameroon as an independent nation. This is the document. But United Nations is watching. But when it becomes a crisis in Iran, United Nations called immediate session 24 hours immediately before the incident even occurred. When North Korea sneaked, even they'll get up from the middle of the night and call for United Nations General Session. But this is Southern Cameroon territory that 60,000 civilians are not languishing in Nigeria, basically without food or water. But it doesn't mean that Southern Cameroon is a country that doesn't have food. They are vested, it's agricultural area, fertile land. But the citizens cannot be productive with the president of the Republic of Cameroon. With the president of the Republic of Cameroon. And yet, United Nations office here in the United States, pay ignorance, nothing happens. And they are still watching. United Nations is still watching. It is sad. It is sad. Because when they show images coming from Africa, no one they say, oh, that place is a cruel place. It's because this United Nations office here in the United States has no responsibility to take action when crisis erupted. Imagine United Nations Secretary General travel to this area that have been suffering. Instead of them to identify the problems and investigate the problems and make sure those irresponsible be punished accordingly, Instead, he went ahead and collecting bribery. United Nations representative went to Africa to collect bribery from the very individual that is perpetrating the citizens. And yet the world remains sound. The world remains silent. No one thought that it is an issue of serious concern that should be investigated and those perpetrators be punished. But since United Nations are leading the bribery, no one should be punished. And that is why when the United Nations Secretary General was asked the question about the bribery in his office, he remains silent. He doesn't want to talk about it. And the world remains silent because they are the architect that implanted the current United Nations Secretary General that is promoting the bribery and corruption, while citizens of free world are suffering. It is absolutely bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre. If United Nations recognize this document that Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation, then 60,000 civilians should not be in jail, should not be living without basic food and water. The interim government cabinet of Southern Cameroon were adopted by foreign nations in the presence of Nigerian government with the complicity of the United Nations. Imagine the interim cabinet of Southern Cameroon, the interim government, the interim cabinet of Southern Cameroon, led by Seseko, was adopted in Nigeria with the presence of the United Nations Deputy Secretary General in Nigeria. It is absolutely, because this is not make-up stories. This is factual information. The interim cabinet of Southern Cameroon was adopted in Nigeria with the presence of United Nations Deputy Secretary General. In the very night, it seems she is the complicity with the United Nations because the bribery that was given to his boss, the current Secretary General in Yaoundé. And so it was a plan orchestrated by the current United Nations Secretary General and with the complicity of the Nigerian government. And that is why the interim cabinet was adopted to silence the people of Southern Cameroon. That is why I will never stand silent until there is evidence of life. Imagine it's been 3 months now that the cabinet of the Southern Cameroon was adopted with the president of the United Nations Deputy Secretary General, with complicity of the Republic of Cameroon and Nigerian government. Today, as I'm speaking, a 9-man member cabinet or 12-member cabinet has not been seen, heard, or viewed somewhere in this world, and the world remains silent. United Nations remains silent. The world body remains silent. It is very, very disgraceful. It is very, very unbelievable that a 12-man cabinet adopted in Nigeria with the presence of the United Nations Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General. That's the highest second rank in the United Nations office. And it doesn't occur to the world that they have to denounce, they have to send an investigation. They need to find out whether there is evidence of life. They are watching. Yes, the United Nations is watching. That is why they show those horrible images to the world and said the African is corrupted. But meanwhile, the corruption is physically here. If the current Secretary General was happening in Europe, he would have immediately sent to jail. It would have been all over the major media and talking about it. If that bribery that was given by the Republic African dictatorship, Pobia, that has been in power for 36 years, If that bribe was given in Europe, it would have been flourishing in all the major media, including Europe and everywhere. But since the bribery was conducted in Africa, it doesn't matter to them. Who cares? No, nobody cares. It's Africa. Who? C'est comme les Noirs. Comment on s'en fout avec les ça? Est-ce qu'on peut dire, on ne peut parler jamais avec de ces choses-là? On ne parle jamais. Yes, it's African country. Who cares? You know, hypocrisy is not a good idea, that we look other issues differently and allow others to flourish differently. It is not hypocrisy when we allow other things to flourish and we allow others to promote. And the painful, because I understand the painful, because I can imagine the children of Southern Cameroon living on the forest, living on the grass. They don't have a place to go. They have been beaten by mosquitoes. They have been beaten by mosquitoes. And you can see the layers of their skin is dark because they have been beaten by mosquitoes. And yet the world community remains silent. Yes, the world community remains silent. When Great Britain refused to be membership of the European Union, the election was conducted normally. There was no crisis, there was no war, there was no fighting. It was peaceful. But Southern Cameroon, they have lost more than 500 people that have been shot by the Republic of Cameroon. Souls that have been dead, people that have been burnt alive, homes that have been burnt alive, businesses that have been burnt, the property that have been burnt. It doesn't occur to the world community that they need to draw attention. And the world media, they don't think they can draw attention. Of course, it is in the African descent. Who cares about Africa? Yes. I mean, it is horrible. It is horrible to see how people are being neglected. People are being neglected. And we have the person, he's still in office, and some individual, Francois Lefort, is the Deputy Central African Regional Representative. And the sons and daughters of Southern Cameroon that are members of this Security Council. And he has the audacity to describe the Southern Cameroon as terrorists. Who is more of a terrorist? The Republic of Cameroon that invaded the Southern Cameroon and murdering the sons and citizens of Southern Cameroon? Or who is more of a terrorist? The Southern Cameroon indigenous, the citizens, and that their children are being murdered, their homes are being burned down by invader, the Republic of Cameroon. And yet it doesn't occur to him to have a sound judgment that his own nations voted in 1961 recognizing the Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation. And he has the audacity and present to the world community, and they just accept as a sheep. And they can't even clarify whether he was making a sound judgment, whether his mental is functioning to the highest level. You know, of course, people of the dark race, who cares? Nobody cares. And I can be speaking, nobody cares as well. That is why you have 60,000 citizens in Nigeria living 24 hours without food. 60,000 living 24 hours without food. And we have someone called Paul Biya, who is 85 years, cannot even recall the daughter's name, cannot recall his wife's name, cannot recall who spoke with him 5 minutes ago. He's mentally deranged. 85 years old, he's the president. The world see him more. They value someone 85 years old that is mentally challenged, doesn't even recall the wife's name. He can't even remember whom he spoke to a few minutes ago. And yet the world community respects him. They understand him as the legitimate president. Why the Southern Cameroon, that is a member of the Security Council, member of the Trustee Security Council, it doesn't occur to them that we need to call attention to the world body, that we need to do something about it. Yes. I mean, imagine, I felt the pain. Imagine a mother that has to walk a long distance, pregnant with twins, and had to walk a distance and deliver his child in the middle of the night and have bleed to death without means. And one asks, who is the Republic of Cameroon in Southern Cameroon territory? A mother bleed to death and he's escaping the army of the Republic of Cameroon that has no legitimate authority over the Southern Cameroon. And the world community remains silent. It doesn't occur to the world community to draw attention that we need to do something about this. Why can they do it? No. Why do you think the world should intervene? Because the leaders that they expect him to do it is correcting bribery. The United Nations Secretary General here in the United States, if it was China, I wouldn't have mattered to me. If it was Russia, it doesn't matter to me because I understand that they are all corrupted. But in the United States where the law prevails, in the United States where law prevails over any form of bribery, United States, the land that I believe, that's the land that inspired me to be who I am today. And I can stand and proud of. But when I see my own people have been murdering, have been tortured, and someone that is leading that organization physically here in the United States and is the one collecting the bribe, that is why I am calling of you. If you have something to do about it, you please do it, because I cannot believe that mother have been bleed to death. And someone that is leading him is the person with mentally deranged. They would prefer Pobia with mentally deranged over a professor in a university. Yes, someone with brains, 85 years old. He can't recall his name of the wife. He can't recall his daughter's name. He can't recall his first son's name. Yet the world community regards him as a legitimate person. He has been in power for 36 years. Yes. You know what? I want to take a moment to thank you, all of you, for taking the time to watch. You know, that we all have a duty and responsibility to make the world a better place for all of us, because all of us are in transition period in this earth. We will all one day die, but we have a question to ask ourselves. Did we act accordingly? Did we fail to act when we have the position to do so? That's the question that is going to remain in our soul as we move through the transition period on this earth, that we, in one point or the others, has failed the world, just as the United Nations has failed to take responsibility, because they choose bribery over the citizens. They choose corruption over the citizens and murdering over the citizens, because international body has failed. But I want to take a moment to thank all of you and I wish you all the happy Easter. And I will continue when God permit me. Wish you all a good night. Thank you.